Hello and welcome to this edition of the Astriva Masterclass. It is the conversations you need to know about featuring HR experts from across the globe that are here to help you become better in your HR or TA role. This week, we are talking all about building effective candidate relationships. This is such a critical thing in this modern day of business. I'm Joey Price, the host here of the Astriva Masterclass, and this week I'm joined by two talented experts from across the globe who are going to share their background experience and wisdom on building effective candidate relationships. And without further ado, I'd love for them to introduce themselves. Tommy, Klaudia, please tell people your name, your title, and company, as well as a fun fact that we might not know about you just by looking at your LinkedIn profile. Tommy, please.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having us today. My name's Tommy Jenkins. I'm the VP of recruitment at RocketPower. I look after our global recruitment programs. Fun fact about myself that you might not know from LinkedIn: I am an avid fisherman. Um, I'm based in California, so I have access to some of the most beautiful water on the planet. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks. Nice to meet you, Tommy. Claudia, welcome.
Welcome and thank you for having us. My name is Klaudia and I'm Senior Talent Acquisition Partner working for Nordcloud, an IBM company. I'm based in Poland, so completely different globe, but happy to be here today with you all. In terms of fun fact, I would say that you do not know that I'm having fake Italian family, which means that when I was 18, I went to Italian family as an au pair. Till now, 10 years after, we're still having contact, and I love Italian cuisine. That's pretty much all about me. Thank you.
Claudia, that's a wonderful. So nice to learn that about you. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions, okay? So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you'll share your expertise for the benefit of our audience. And audience, make sure you're going look back at our growing catalog of masterclass that are just as great as this one. The first question we'll jump into is, how do you think evolving technologies like AI and data analytics are shaping the dynamics of candidate relationships? And what ethical considerations should HR practitioners be aware of? Tommy, please.
Sure, I'll jump right in. I think we're in an exciting time, especially in the world of talent and recruitment. I've been in the industry for a number of years, and I've seen the evolution of and the development of systems and its impact. There's always a bit of a fear factor in embracing new technologies, and what I'm really excited about is a number of the different tools that we have access to now that allow us to effectively communicate with candidates and really maintain multiple communication threads with candidates, whether it be via text, via email, or via some form of automation. Um, in terms of data and data analytics, that again is we're in a world now where we're able to measure the effectiveness of those communications. And what I love about what we're seeing right now is, especially in the world of talent and being able to successfully fill roles, um, for our companies, for our firms, for our clients, is that we can measure data from top of funnel all the way through to onboarding. Um, that gives us an amazing opportunity to understand our effectiveness in the communications that we're sending across to candidates, how engaged those candidates are in terms of receiving those communications, and ultimately how we're able to position the roles that we would like to be able to fill. Um, of course, that brings with it a bit of, like I mentioned, a fear factor around some of those ethical considerations that we have to think about. Artificial intelligence, of course, amazing tool. But we do have to be conscious of things like bias. One of the big areas that at least my group is focused on right now is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And making sure that technologies that we're utilizing to be able to find candidate matches are not putting in some of that unconscious bias that might be there is something that we definitely have to look out for.
You mentioned some great points, Tommy. Klaudia, what about you?
So I agree completely with Tommy and what he has already shared. And I would say that those terms like data analytics and also AR, that for me, they're completely different terms. So first of all, starting with data analytics, I really believe that we have improved a lot in this area, and it will definitely help us HR practitioners at work. So we are able to track the data, but also analyze and make improvements in our processes within the company, but also improve our work as a recruiter. So for me, it's very important to analyze because we're able to go through our NPS as a recruiter. We are also able to track the source of a candidate and then think how we can impact our candidates, or which source of, I would say, employer branding we can choose. So I really believe that quality data tells us a lot about the candidates we're targeting, also about their expectations, needs. And it enables us to make wise recruitment related business decisions. So definitely it's worth spending more time on data analytics, and we should do this in terms of having conversation with candidates, but also with the business. In terms of the AI, I would be also really on the same point of view as Tommy, because I'm saying always that I really like and we really need to follow them. But I would be careful and just remind everyone that it can help us. But still, we should be cautious and also use our own judgment. Because as Tommy mentioned, training data or flawed algorithms can lead us to wrong decision. And we definitely need to be careful about the bias when having the conversation or making the decision with candidates. So in terms of what we may struggle in the future is definitely data privacy and also the bias topics. And I would be encouraging all the organization just to provide a framework to make sure that fairness, also the transparency and accountability in our recruitment process, they are there, regardless whether we are using AI extensively or any sort of data analytics.
Great. Thank you, Klaudia. How are you both in your own roles helping your companies address the ethical challenges of AI and data analytics at the scale that we're seeing in business today? Klaudia, you first, please.
So as I mentioned, we need to be very careful with AI. So for example, I'm using AI in terms of having messages with the candidates. So I'm trying to make them user friendly, but also check my messages in terms of having any wrong, I would say, words or any wrong message to them. So definitely I can use AI in terms of that and improve the way I am messaging my candidates.
Okay. What about you, Tommy?
I would say that, at the end of the day, recruitment is still a person-oriented business. And, I think having the right set of tools to be able to create, for example, utilizing matching technology to find the right candidates is important. But at the end of the day, it really is the recruiter, the sourcer, the person that's responsible for establishing the relationship with that candidate to really ensure that match was done correctly. It is difficult. I mean, the reality is we as recruiters are in many cases not very technical. So we're trusting the tools that we're utilizing. So at the end of the day, we have to make the final call. And, I think that when I look at several of the recruitment programs that we're managing, there is always some element of DE and I that we're looking to fulfill in terms of the candidate base that we're looking to target, and structuring that within the recruitment program is super important to make sure that you are providing your client with or your team with the right group to really make those metrics work within the organization.
Great. Thank you both for telling your story of how you're using AI and data analytics and protecting the ethical integrity of your businesses. Let's transition to our next conversation. And this is, Tommy, you kind of led into this, but when we think about the traditional relationship techniques that recruiters are used to, we found that some of them are a bit inefficient in today's diverse and globalized talent pool.
Right.
Klaudia, let's start with you first. How have you adapted to transition from maybe some of the insufficient, outdated relationship building techniques into more modern ones? Please. Yeah.
So I would say that working as a global recruiter in international companies helped me the most to see diverse and globalized talent pools. So I was mainly working for the big international companies such as IBM or Google, and right now Nordcloud, also the part of IBM. So I feel like understanding different cultures is very important in our work, and it allows us to have more relevant interactions with people around us. So I feel like that realizing that everyone is different helped me to better understand my candidates and have stronger relationships with them. So I'm really grateful that I had possibility to work for many countries within Europe and even outside of it. So I had the projects for the USA or for Australia or for China. So I am able to say what works when working with Polish candidates, what to say, what to not, and how are you? It's only usually good, and that's pretty much all. And I need to start a conversation with Poles, and what would not work with somebody from Germany or USA. So my advice would be do not stick to one country while gaining the experience, and just network with other HR people from different countries. I would be also advising go to different webinars, conferences, or workshops, which may help you to see these cultural differences. And I'm sure it will help to have meaningful, long-lasting relationships with your candidates. And I feel like understanding these differences will help also not only when working with the candidates or collaborating with them, but also with business. And in our work, we also need to interact with business and different cultures. So, of course, everything has changed. So I've noticed that recently I need to be much faster when giving feedbacks. Candidates started to be very impatient. So maximum 2 days, and I am just writing or calling with the feedback. But even though when I'm not having any update, I'm trying to give them call or email with no update information, and they're happy about that. And I've noticed also that candidates right now, they would like to be more transparent with them and sharing with them why they need to wait or why there is this decision. So I feel like being human and emphatic towards them, it hasn't changed, but we need to still remember about that and be faster, and just reminding ourselves that everyone is different, and we are from different backgrounds. So it may work in one country, but it may not for any other.
Thanks, Claudia. And Tommy, I'll repeat the question for you. In what ways have you found traditional relationship building techniques insufficient in today's diverse and globalized talent pool? And how have you adapted?
Yeah. I love this question. I see that recruitment over the last 3 or 4 years has really changed. You know, just imagine pre-pandemic how you would recruit for specific roles versus we've really embraced a remote world in many ways. I still see value in those traditional relationship building techniques. It's the ultimate goal, to have those conversations, those face to face conversations. Utilizing the tools to get us to those face to face conversations is something that can really help create efficiency, and speed in terms of being able to fill roles. But I also think about this question in a couple of different ways. I think about how candidates want to be communicated to, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking there are a couple of considerations that are global in context. One is, to Andrea's point, geographically focused. How does that candidate normally communicate with that talent partner? Is it a conversation? Is it a phone conversation? In many cases, it's not anymore. In many cases, it's just over email, or just over text, or just over WhatsApp, or whatever it might be, whatever tool you're using to communicate. And a lot that goes into play there is the generational aspect of the candidate. If you're targeting candidates for senior roles, you're definitely going to want to have it. If it's an executive search, you're going to have multiple face-to-face conversations, or at least video conversations with candidates, to really explain the role in detail, to look at the prospectus of the role, and to be able to really sell that candidate on that position, and the reason that they should apply to that particular company. But again, I think we're in a world of opportunity. When we think about it, the geographical aspect of the talent pool has really expanded. For companies that are looking to hire remote talent, that gives us an opportunity to really expand our search. So, making sure that we have the right tools in place to be able to reach a broader candidate base, and then have the ability to really meet the candidate where the candidate wants to be met in terms of those conversations is really key. At the end of the day, it is about relationship building and getting to that end result.
So let's transition to that point. Klaudia, Tommy, if you could maybe share your best tip for balancing the need for automating processes in HR with ensuring genuine human connection in candidate relationships. So give me your top tip for this one. Tommy, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. I would say that, in terms of being able to meet those candidates where they want to be met, you need to ask. I think that a lot of times, as recruiters, we're incredibly busy. We're looking at multiple candidates. We're having multiple conversations simultaneously, but sometimes we don't, begin that conversation with asking the candidate where they want to be met. How would you like to have a follow-up conversation? Would you like to have that follow-up conversation via a video meeting, via email? Would you like more information? So just, making sure that we're asking candidates questions. It's the first step in establishing the relationship with the candidate, in my view.
And Claudia, what about you? What's your top tip for balancing the need for automating processes, but also that human connection? What's your top tip?
So I feel like it's very important to start with reviewing our entire process and also deciding what can be automated and what should stay done by us humans. So I definitely agree that it's important to ask the candidate about, I would say, the way they would like to be contacted, and I'm doing the same. But after my first chat with them, and the first chat is automated by Google Calendar and by sending the appointment. And maybe it's working only in Poland, but also recently I was working for Germany, and I would say in general EMEA region, and they're happy when they are receiving the link to my calendar, and they can decide whether or when they would like to have the chat with me. And many of them, they're telling that it is flexible for them and pretty easy, rather than sharing the slots, which I can do. So definitely I'm using the automation in scheduling the first interview with them, with me. Also, I like automating sending good luck messages to my candidates before their interviews. So I'm having the plan emails sent to them. I feel like it makes them that I remember about their interview, and I'm wishing them good luck. In terms of contacting them further, for me, it's important this human touch. So in terms of sharing final feedbacks, definitely I'm calling to the candidates, or if they prefer to have the Google Meet chat, also I'm doing, but I'm trying to be always face to face, even remotely, but face to face. If they do not have time, I'm sending the rejection messages, but I'm always trying to personalize. So those are, I would say, my tips to automate, but also to have this human touch. And I feel like it's very important in terms of the automation to have the tools which will allow us or give us the room for flexibility and personalization where necessary. And also, we need to be very careful to decide where we would like to have the touch points and which touch points with the candidates are important in terms of interacting as a humans. And what I feel is also important in my work to regularly review and adjust my recruitment process to the needs of my candidates and based on the feedback they are sharing with me, because I'm always trying to ask them about the feedback after the recruitment process with me. What was good, what was wrong, what we can improve as a company, and also me as a recruiter.
Awesome. So I have a yes or no question for you, and so feel free to take time to think through this one. I personally like this question. So yes or no? Do you believe that a candidate's perception of their relationship with a company can significantly impact their job performance once hired? Yes or no? Tommy, you first.
100% yes.
And why is that?
Well, I think that, you know, their perception of the company going into the company, and the conversations that they've had leading to that decision. I mean, you think about how many times a candidate actually changes a job within their career. These are incredibly impactful decisions. So clear communication through that process is absolutely important to impacting their perception of what they thought they were being hired for relative to what they are being hired for. I think, as an extension of that, the onboarding process is absolutely critical in terms of bringing candidates on board and making them feel a part of the community of the firm. I think that is going to have an impact. So definitely yes.
Okay. Claudia, I'll repeat the question for you. Do you believe that a candidate's perception of their relationship with a company can significantly impact their job performance once hired? Yes or no?
Of course, yes. So I have the same point of view as Tommy. So yes, I believe that the strong relationship during the recruitment process with me, but also with me as a representative of my company, can impact their performance. And also, what I agree and highly I would say I notice that candidates they appreciate is being transparent. So my advice would be do not speak only about those nice things, but also have open conversation about what candidates may not like. For example, I'm working in the cloud consulting company, so I'm just saying that have you been ever working for the consulting company? Are you fine with changing project or clients often? How will you react? So for me, the aim is not to have the placement and then just forget about the role, but also to have the placement, but um, be happy about the person I bring to the organization. And I would say the biggest win will be to have this person staying for longer in the organization. So it's not only about the technical skills, but also about the culture fit and whether this person will be happy about joining our company, and also will this person recommend us in the future in their network.
All right, great. And of course, there are other factors that have an impact as well, such as the organization itself, the manager, their team. We know there are other factors that impact job performance, but it's great to hear that the candidate's perception of the relationship is a critical component not to leave behind. We're transitioning into our final question here. We've got about 4 minutes for our conversation today. So I want to give you all enough time to respond. This is another yes or no question. Is the investment in building strong pre-hire candidate relationships always justified by the outcomes after hiring? Claudia, you can start first. It's a yes or no question. What do you think?
So of course, I would be telling that it is yes. For me, building strong pre-hire candidate relationship should always be important for the recruiters or any other representative of the company. So I'm not thinking only about the outcomes after hiring this person. I'm also thinking about those many candidates who have been rejected during the process or when the role is closed or canceled. Um, I really believe that at the end we're selling the company the role, and it's not impacting only the candidate who was hired, but it may also give us a new contract, new client, or bring to the organization new referrals for other roles. So, yes, it is investment, and it's I would say also the long-term investment because it's also keeping our strong employer brand in competitive industry, and also is making us able to stand out in the market.
All right. Thanks, Claudia. And Tommy, what about you?
Yeah, I was just thinking through this question, and I'm gonna say yes. At the same time, I'd like to have a bit of a caveat in that answer. I think that uh, the the more the less high volume the role in terms of your recruiting, because we recruit across multiple programs from manufacturing all the way up to extremely high tech. Um, I would say that it is important, yes. But at the same time, the investment in that relationship, based on what you have to weigh out, is your investment of time in that relationship at a pre-hire stage versus the getting the role filled. And so there's a balance there that you have to weigh. And I think for each individual role, that balance tips a bit of a different way. At the same time, completely agree that looking at establishing relationships with the talent pool that you're focused on is job number one. One of the things that we always have to keep in mind is, after that client or after that candidate is hired, and many times that candidate becomes a client, becomes one of the hiring managers that we're supporting. So establishing that relationship at the beginning of the process, when they were a candidate, and taking them through that process end to end, I think is a 9 times out of 10 is the investment you want to make.
Mm-hmm. All right, great. Well, this has been a power packed conversation. I wish we had more time because there are so many topics that we could unpack from this very one. But Tommy and Claudia, how can our community stay in contact with you after this conversation? So, how can they find you online? Claudia, you first, and then Tommy.
I will say the same what I am sharing always with my candidates. So if you would like to stay connected with me, my LinkedIn is like my work messenger. So whatever you would like to connect with me, it's the best to connect with me via LinkedIn. And there is only one surname. My name is Klaudia, and the surname is Filip and then Mirek. It changed recently, so happy to share more tips or to have the conversation offline.
Thanks. And Tommy?
And same with me. Please connect with me over LinkedIn. It's Tommy Jenkins at RocketPower, or send me an email at tommy@rocketpower.io.
All right. Well, this has been such a great episode. Thank you both for sharing your wisdom and not just the theory, but the things you're doing in practice. It definitely makes our community so much better, and we're grateful that you gave your time today. So, this has been the Astriva Masterclass on building effective candidate relationships. We hope that you've gotten something powerful and actionable out of our time today. And make sure to look at our growing catalog of masterclass conversations to help you in your role. Without further ado, I'm Joey Price. It's been a pleasure leading this class today, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.